I'm Dr. Gav Schneider. Let's talk about the idea of critical risk management. In a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and digital world where we are bombarded with information to the point that we're actually overloaded, we receive more information than we're able to process at almost any given time of our day. Just think about your mobile phone and how many apps and data sources come in just through that alone. If I look at my own morning start, I'm looking at least 3 news channels, at least 4 different messaging apps, looking at my emails, and looking at my social media to get a picture of what's going on in the world around me. Go back only 30 years, generally we only had a few television channels to get that information from, and a few newspapers, and word of mouth. So things have changed very quickly and we are constantly bombarded with a ton of information. The challenge we have then is we might get seduced into thinking that because we have access to so much information, I need to be able to categorize and list every single risk. In other words, something that could help me or hurt me, and develop an action plan for each of those. That can become incredibly overwhelming. In fact, if I look at my consulting career, we once worked with a client who very proudly presented a risk register that had something like 863 risks listed on their risk register. So many that in fact it would be impossible to manage them all. And arguably in the process of identifying all of those, the organization itself might have even created more vulnerability because it identified areas that it was unable to, based on limited resources, manage effectively. So the concept of critical risk management aligns quite closely to the 80-20 rule, or the Pareto effect, where if we can think about what are the 20%, what are those things that are most critical for us in terms of achieving objectives, or what are those things that would be so catastrophic if they happen that they disrupt our whole operation. If we can focus on those, and generally we probably wouldn't want more than 10 critical risks, we can make sure that we are putting our limited resources, limited effort, and limited energy into the way we capitalize on the world of risk to achieve objectives. It's not a simple process, but arguably the challenge is to get simplified and streamlined and then have all of your other risks cascading under your critical risks, as opposed to having an unwieldy list that nobody could ever manage. Critical risk management is a critical outcome and approach for a world dominated with information overload.